Hi everybody, Richard Tromans here from Artificial Lawyer TV. Today we're doing a bit of an extended interview with Jana Blount, who is a changemaker or the changemaker at DLA Piper, the global law firm. Hi Jana, great to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I thought DLA is doing a lot of interesting stuff, and you're very much connected to all, I imagine, of those projects. So let's just start off with what actually is your role?
Sure. So as you said, I am the change maker for DLA Piper across the international firm. I report directly up into our co-global CEO, Simon Levine, creating and driving our radical change strategic pillar for the firm. So 2 years ago, when Simon was reelected, we set out, or he set out rather, in his manifesto, this this idea that we should be embarking on radical change as a law firm, creating that new future legal establishment, and really challenging ourselves as to what we do, how we do it, what we provide our clients, and even how we set ourselves up in order to enable all of that. So I head that up. I lead that. I have a change council of 13 people across the business that come together, and we further define radical change and set the priorities for that area as well, which at the moment are client experience, digital, and consulting.
Awesome. Okay, that's great. Well, that sounds like a fantastic job. I'm quite jealous. So, well, could you give just a couple of concrete examples of things that you've done? So you could say, yes, that is an example of something we did.
Sure. So there's a couple of things that we've done in the last almost 2 years since we've launched. One of which is create our bespoke DLA design thinking framework and training modules, and we've trained up about 500 people so far across the firm. The ambition that we have for the next 3 months, so before Christmas, we want to have a virtual world tour and expose literally all 8,000 plus people in the business to what DLA design thinking is and how they can start to utilize that in their day to day. The other thing that we've done is form Aldersgate Group. So that is a wholly owned entity outside of DLA Piper, and that houses some of our pilots and new business lines and products that we've been creating that have come out of the Radical Change and Change Council.
Awesome. Now, I know there's only certain aspects of this we can talk about, but what aspects of the Aldersgate group can we talk about?
Well, it's already been released that well, one of the things that we've embarked on is litigation funding. So we have an agreement there with Aldersgate Funding. That is one thing that's come out of Radical Change, and we just think that can completely change the dynamics of how we can offer or how our clients can experience litigation and pursue some of these claims that they have. Some other areas that we're looking at, like I mentioned, are consulting. So we're looking at, instead of, I think a lot of firms or people talk about the big four and the threat of the consultancies to us, but actually what about what we can be doing to widen what we provide and the advice that we give to our clients. So there's some areas there that we're piloting and rolling out. And in the third area, digital, we have been looking at a AI-driven risk platform.
Interesting. So, kind of like Thought River, kind of like risk analysis of individual contracts, or going beyond that kind of thing.
Beyond that, um, more along the lines of how can we create a platform that allows our clients to keep track of and understand where the risk is in their own business.
Gotcha. So that would be derived from all of the data that's inside the business, or would it be more of a kind of horizon scanner that sort of, there's a regulatory change in, I don't know, France, and it goes ping, you need to watch out for this, or
I'm going to get in trouble if I say more.
okay.
We're going to launch in a couple months, so I have to kind
Okay.
of keep my mouth closed for a bit longer.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. Now, another thing that you mentioned earlier when we were off camera was Kill Bill. And as readers and watchers know, ending the billable hour, at least in most use cases, is a campaigning project for Artificial Lawyer. If you could tell us a little bit more about that, and I love the title, Kill Bill.
Yeah, we thought it was fun. Well, I think it's just the big elephant in the room that keeps coming up, right? So how can we really shift our mindsets? How can we work with our clients in a different way if we're continually tied to these 6 minute increments of time? So we have a kind of task force within the Change Council and the Change teams looking at how we might do that. And that's a combination of a lot of things, but on one aspect is, as a global law firm, as a firm that does a lot of transactions, we have a lot of data. So there's the aspect of looking at our data to get insight as to pricing, but that still won't answer the whole problem, right? That's only one bit of the equation. The most important part is what we call willingness to pay, or what the clients value. And I think that's probably a more industry-wide question that we need to answer, and it's not one law firm that can really answer that by themselves. In particular, when a lot of the times our clients are lawyers themselves, and so it's just trying to shift our whole thinking outside of time, and time being value, into the end solution, the end product, the advice having an inherent value in and of itself. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's great. But let's come back to, I think, what is a very, very important point, which is, these problems are so systemic all the way through. They're almost like, it's like your appendix. It's in
yeah,
the body. It's like, we got to take this out, but it's kind of like we don't want to kill the patient in the process. And
no.
the patient is a little bit nervous watching all these surgeons hovering around them, going, "Oh, we're just going to have a quick little operation," and whip that out. And the law firm's like, "Hold on a minute, are you sure you want to get rid of this billable hour thing? It's been pretty good to us for the last century or so." Just looking at sort of more broadly, I mean, I think one of the challenges that I've seen is that these problems, as I just mentioned, are so systemic that we have to almost go outside of the law, and we have to sort of bring all the corporates together, get them all around the table, and say, "Look, how can we work on this together?"
Yeah, absolutely.
How could DLA is a huge firm though, a huge firm. I mean, what do you think DLA could do to sort of help that dialogue?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I have to take it back to DLA design. Um, and I guess that, at the heart of all of that is to truly understand our clients' needs. And actually, if you go a step further into what our clients need, is to create value for their businesses.
Mm.
And so a lot of what we're actually doing, and the way that we're utilizing design thinking with our clients, is facilitating sessions with them, but with their own business, to try to understand, well, what is it that you would really value? What is it that you really need? What is it that you would really love from a legal department, an in-house team? And actually, when you get to the heart of that, that's when you're going to start to unpick that value that we're trying to understand, that we could provide and you could sell and monetize. So that's not necessarily the context that we go into those sessions to do, but by having those types of conversations over and over again, you start to unpick, and you start to better understand what it is that beyond lawyers really, really value and need and want from a legal department, from legal expertise, right? There's also, I don't know if that really answers your question. You asked, what could we be doing as such a huge entity?
Yeah.
Uh, you're right. I think there's probably more that we could be doing, if I'm going to be honest. Could we bring together some of our major global clients and start to unpick that? Probably. Actually, maybe this is something you and I could talk about after. If you have ideas, I would love to think about what we could do here.
There is actually a secret project. Going back to just the technology, because
Yeah.
the readers are very interested in that. In terms of, let's pick a classic piece of technology, natural language processing for doc review. Is that something that you would get involved in, oversee, or help to encourage within the business, or is that someone else's job?
Yeah, so I definitely encourage it. It's not necessarily my role to work with the practice groups and actually embed it into their practice. So beyond the radical change team, we have the service delivery team, a very important team within the business, much larger than the radical change team actually. And that's headed up by William Naunton and James Craddock. And within that team, there are the legal process guys, the legal technologists, the legal project managers, the legal delivery center, the resource managers. So they all work very closely with the practice groups to think about how we can create efficiencies and do what we already do better. And so one project that they've kicked off now is they're working with our corporate practice group very intensively and extensively to look at that end-to-end due diligence process and where Kira should be implemented, what that process is, so they've process mapped the whole thing, and how they can layer different technologies that we already have as a business to do that better.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just last question, would you say from what you've seen so far that there has been substantive change in the firm? And I guess for me, people often ask me, what do you mean by change? And for me, I guess is, has the production process, to give it a kind of industrial metaphor, has the production process changed? And to that, I would add, do you see it continuing to change?
Yeah. Um, I think sometimes when you are in the change or you're doing the change, you can sometimes lose sight of what you've already accomplished. And that's something that I try to remind myself and my team is I think if you're in this role of being a change maker, whether you have that exact title or not, you're always kind of focused on what next? How can we improve? What else should we be focused on? And actually, it's really beneficial to sometimes take stock of where you've come from and how much has been changed already. So, I've been with DLA for 4 years almost.
Mm,
At the end of this month, it'll be 4 years. And it's drastically different from when I started. When I started, I was part of a team called Service Delivery and Quality, and there were maybe 7 of us, you know. And now we've embarked on radical change. We have the Change Council. Service delivery is so much bigger. It's at least 50. I've lost count. I need to get the exact number. But actually, I think the most fundamental shift that I can talk about is this shift in mindset where I think I kind of felt at times at the beginning I was peddling some wares of we should be doing Kira, you should be thinking of this way, you can please try to change, please try to try this new kit or new technology. And actually what we've noticed, and especially during this global pandemic, a lot more of people coming and knocking on our doors. We need to do this now. We need your help. We need to think about how we can provide something different for our clients. I have this great idea for a product. Is there tech that we can use to do this? And that is, it's such a shift, and it's an amazing shift. So we've had to think and really change as a change function, actually, as to what change looks like. And back to what your original question was of, the product, whatever product chain or conveyor belt.
yeah.
Actually, I think it's a big shift in mindset for a law firm to even acknowledge that they need one in the first instance, right? So there's that change. And then you're right, it's actually trying to put more rigor and process around the evaluation of ideas as well, to join it up and also to prioritize, because we're actually getting a lot more than we can do at a time at the moment.
Yeah, no, fantastic. It's very exciting. Unfortunately, we have to end it there, but I'll just make one observation is that I don't think we've used the word innovation through the entire conversation. And I think that's very interesting because innovation is such a sort of blurry, amorphous term, whereas change is kind of precise because you look at A, and if it is different, 6 months later, that is
Right.
change. You can
Right.
call it innovation or whatever you want, but it has changed.
Exactly. We've actually stopped using the word at DLA Piper for that reason. So I love that you pointed it out.